All right, here we go. How you guys doing? Holding up okay? I just did a lot of grading and reading of your posts today I'm always a week behind you, so I think they were week three's items. And I'm really enjoying the depth that you're going into your initial posts and the worthwhile feedback and conversations you're having with each other following the post. It's kind of different, obviously, than a regular classroom. I think the thing I love about it is kind of keeping the quieter folks in mind. I mean, if you don't mind me calling you, if that fits you, an introvert. I think that we lose them in classes, and we lose you in classes, and there's something about having a chance to formulate your ideas on your own time and putting them out there without anybody watching you or hearing you talk. Um, it gives us a chance to build confidence, and it also gives us a chance to hear everybody's ideas, not just the loudmouths in the room. I recently sat in on a meeting for one of the schools I work for, and it was supposed to be a kind of roundtable discussion. And you know how those meetings sometimes go. Was a particular participant who just dominated the conversation. I mean, was talking over people, was having side conversations while other people were talking, and just not self-aware of who she is in a group. And the thought occurred to me, that's how a lot of classrooms are, and as teachers, it's hard to manage that. But these online discussions to me are one way to do that. And so I'm kind of excited about just seeing all of your ideas develop. While I'm talking about ideas developing, and before I get into what's really going on this week, keep in mind that your wiki is a work in progress. And you'll also notice that instead of using the gradebook comment sheet, I'm using the the reply feature in the blogs, wikis, and discussion boards as a way of getting back with you with information. So just wanted to let you know about that. But I said this to most of you in your wiki: revisit it. Let it kind of morph into who you become as you change and solidify your ideas. And so with every chapter, so to speak, of your wiki, consider that. I'm getting used to this learning platform, and it looks like what I'm going to do with the wiki, like I'm doing with the blog and the discussion board, is set up a new one every time there's one due. So at the end of this week, when you have this wiki post is I think only a 2-week cycle. I'll open up the updated syllabus. I just updated this today as well. What we'll do is I'll put comments on, and then I'll build a new one and so forth, and then we'll collate them all together at the end somehow. We'll make it work. Learning a new system. It's not letting me edit the items that I start, so that's why I can't just go in and wave a magic wand and make it work. Okay, so what we have going on here, last week we talked about formative and summative assessments, and this week we are kind of branching off and still talking about writing assessments, but we're writing assessments, right? So I have a couple more sources. Maybe this is a little bit source heavy this week, but I'm really excited about a lot of these sources. Just let me introduce them to you. The first one is back to our Edutopia blog, and it's 3 strategies improving student writing, and it's again a tried and true teacher who is using formative assessment practices in her writing approach. And then we have a faculty focus article that is called Prompts That Get Students to Analyze, Reflect, Relate, and Question. It's a very simple article, and it reminds us that we can have simple writing prompts as well. The Grafen-Berkenstein template PDF is right here, and it's found at the csub.edu website. It's just one source of it. Grafen-Berkenstein wrote a book called They Say, I Say. I actually use it when I teach writing courses for college students, and it's a writing system that they talk about helping. They use to talk about helping students know how to cast their writing in an academic way. They would argue, and I'm sure many of you would, that students have many different intelligences, but sometimes they don't translate well into an academic arena. So getting their gaming knowledge, their automotive industry knowledge, their NASCAR knowledge into contexts and word frames that sound academic is part of the battle. And these templates are writing tools that I want you to explore and just see how possibly you could use those in your classroom. And then I'm using Centers Grove K-12's website for the Bloom's taxonomy. I like that they have different kinds of questioning words, and they have several different graphic illustrations of how Bloom's plays out, because we know that it's easiest to write questions to students about writing and about any topic that are at the lower level of Bloom's, but it's that creative level that we need to strive for, right? So just kind of a self-awareness check there. I think also we're talking a lot about writing prompts in the wiki this week and creating writing tasks, but we also might consider even creating writing quizzes, testing the students about their writing knowledge as we teach mini lessons. So just something to throw out there and think about. Finally, I am trying to dig up this video, and I'm struggling today, so I'm hoping to find that link. I'll put it in the classroom, obviously, when I find it. But it's a really interesting study about how we ask questions and what types of responses we're going to get based on how we ask the question. And our words can unintentionally limit creativity and stifle students' best writing. So just be an awareness of how we write those prompts. So after you read all that stuff, what are you going to write about? Of course, you can always go to the discussion board first, but this week's discussion board, you might feed ideas from the readings. This discussion board says, what are your tried and true strategies for success as a writer? That's personal. You're not going to find that in another source. But what do you, just be self-aware, what do you use as a writer? What is your, even things like how you set your desk up, or where you go to write, or the time of day that you write, or the pre-writing strategy that works for you. Or do you start with the intro? Do you start with the body paragraphs? Do you start with the conclusion? Do you have, I'll give you mine. Tried and true strategy for me is that I write the introduction and conclusion together, not necessarily back to back, but I write them with each other in mind, like a package. So I'll start off with like a hook or an illustration in my intro, and I'll finish that illustration or use a partner illustration in the conclusion. In other words, I tend to begin my writing the same way that I end it, and vice versa. So that's one of my tried and true ways. It saves me time in the long time as a writer, and it works. It makes a nice, tight package in my writing, I believe. So that's a tried and true strategy. What are your go-to methods in the writing process? How do you get from assignment being made to you to your completion of that assignment? And the reason I'm having you think about how you think of yourself as a writer and what goes in your head and what your processes are is that some of this may have come very intuitively to you. I don't think I recognized that writing was easy for me until I was well into college. And I was I was a communications major, got my English master's. Duh, writing's easy for me, right? But I don't think I really analyzed what went on in my brain until I was in college. And it might have even actually been my freshman year, because one of the professors suggested my name to an upperclassman as somebody who could edit her paper. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, duh, I'm actually really good at this. Okay, that sounds really stupid that I wouldn't know that. But when did you have that aha moment? Now think about how you know how to write, and how can you take what you know about how you write and help your students with that. And maybe some of you have expressed really hating to write, and you've had to overcome that obstacle. What are your go-to methods that have worked for you in overcoming that obstacle? So think through these things so that you can share that modeling that a lot of you have talked about as you write. Okay, so the blog this week is to create a writing resource, and I'd like this, we're going to mix it up a little bit, because we've been doing a lot of writing for this crazy writing class, right? I'd like you to create a graphic organizer, a template worksheet, or some other tool that you might use to help students to reach a writing goal or skill mastery. And if you use a source, please cite it. You don't have to use a source for this. In other words, let's say I make a worksheet based on my intro conclusion as a package deal approach. Okay, I can see already what it would look like. And that's something I could pass out to students. And what about even letting students in on the Bloom's taxonomy and showing them how a prompt fits in higher level, I could actually do a Bloom's worksheet and show them. Here, this is how I'm having you think. Just some ideas. Something you could pass out to students either there virtually or actually print out, something that is a tool that you can maybe put in your wiki for later, as a resource that you could use in a classroom, a generic writing resource tool. Okay. The wiki, it is due this week. It is a bigger one. We're going to be building on this. You're creating 4 writing tasks. If you wish, you can do like modes of writing. You could have a narrative, persuasive, informative, and descriptive writing or something like that. That's fine. You don't have to. I encourage you to dig out the Common Core and make sure, and obviously it has to align. With this, you're going to also show of the 4 prompts, 2 of them should be used for formative and 2 of them as summative. Now, what you could do is you could create a whole narrative unit, for example, and you could have 2 summative narrative writing experiences and then 2 other writing activities that are more formative that feed into the narrative. You can bundle and package it any way you wish. I'm trying to keep this big enough for you to do what you want to do with it and make it yours, and yet there's some specific items I need to have. So I need to have 4 tasks, 2 formative, 2 summative, and I'd like a tie-in to your Common Core standards, okay? We're going to be rolling into more of like how we're going to be teaching this prompt out next week, but for this week, this is all you need to know. And if you have questions, please let me know. Just kind of as a send-off today in terms of writing tasks and writing prompts. One thing that you could do to kind of mix things up for your students and to motivate reluctant writers is to have students write their own prompts. And I did this one year with 10th graders because I started every day with an activity I called Spontaneous Writing and Thinking, SWAT. And it got kind of old hat for them. I always chose the prompt, and sometimes they'd complain. So sometimes I would put more than one prompt up and have them choose prompts, and that got kind of old for me. It was kind of their bell work, by the way, and they kept a whole journal of them. I got a lot of my resources, side note, out of a book called The If Book, but you can find prompts online everywhere, okay? A lot of them were goofy. Sometimes they were just like a title, like Why I'm a Danger to the Public. Others were like, if you could name a road after any person, who would you name it after and why? You know, that kind of thing. All of that to say, they got tired of my prompts. I got tired of my prompts, so they all wrote prompts. And then I literally chose their prompts over a course of weeks, and everybody got to see their own prompt. I think it empowered them. It also showed them the reverse of writing, and it also revealed to me what they wanted to write about. So just some things to think about. I hope you have a great week, and please keep questions coming if you have them. I know there's quite a bit to get done this week, and if you're having difficulty, I'd love to know that and see how I can help you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.